Chosen one, why do you still wake up at 3 a.m., heart pounding, wondering if anyone actually noticed the pieces of yourself you gave away? Why does gratitude feel like silence when you spent years holding people together with your bare hands? Why, after everything you sacrificed, every prayer you whispered in the dark for someone else's healing, why do you still feel invisible? Here's the truth they'll never tell you, but I will. Somewhere right now, someone is still breathing because of you. They never said thank you, they probably never will, but heaven saw it. Heaven counted every midnight prayer you prayed when your knees ached and your faith trembled. Heaven recorded every tear you cried into pillows that held no witness but God. Heaven heard the moment you chose to stand when everyone else fell. You think you're forgotten. You think your years of pouring out went unnoticed. But let me tell you something that will rock your soul. You're not invisible. You're irreplaceable. You are the quiet miracle that's been keeping people alive. Not through grand gestures or spotlights. Through the sacred, silent weight of your presence. Through love that costs everything and asks for nothing. If your heart just whispered, "That's me," if something in your spirit just stirred like waking from a long sleep, type 777 inches, the comments right now. Let heaven see you. Let this community remind you that you are known. And listen, before we go deeper, I want to honor every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping light reach others who feel alone in their calling, who are sitting in the dark right now wondering if their sacrifice mattered. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message is resonating with your soul, go ahead and plant that seed of faith. Let your support be an act of worship. Now hear me clearly. This message isn't flattery. It's revelation. You didn't stumble onto this video. You were summoned. Something in the spiritual realm pulled you into this exact moment because God is about to show you what He's seen all along, why your pain had purpose, why your silence carried power, why your sacrifice was never wasted. You've been the anchor when everyone else drifted. You've been the lantern when everyone else went dark. And whether they know it or not, whether they ever say it or not, you are the reason they haven't given up. By the end of this message, you will finally understand why God chose you for the kind of love that costs everything, and why that love is about to shift from hidden to historical. Your reward isn't coming, it's here, and it's not what you expected. Let's begin. Have you ever felt like you gave everything and got nothing back but silence? Have you ever wondered if God Himself looked away during the years you held everyone together while you were falling apart? Have you ever asked in the middle of the night when sleep won't come and regret whispers lies, did my life even matter? Listen to me, beloved. Listen close, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter the lie you've been carrying like a stone in your chest. You are not forgotten. You are legendary. Not in the world's eyes, not on social media, not in the halls of fame or fortune, but in the archives of heaven. Your name is written in gold. Every tear you cried in secret, recorded. Every sacrifice you made in silence, catalogued. Every moment you stayed when everyone else walked away, heaven stood and applauded. You see, you're not loud, you're not flashy, you don't demand attention or chase applause. But when others fell apart, when families fractured, when faith faltered, you became the steady heartbeat in the chaos. You were the one who showed up, the one who prayed when prayer felt useless, the one who loved when love felt foolish. Jesus said it in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Not you should be, or you might become. You are." Present tense, right now. Even when you feel dim, even when you feel forgotten, you are the light that refuses to go out. Do you know who you remind me of? Anna. Anna, the prophetess, 84 years old. widowed after just 7 years of marriage. She could have given up. She could have spent her last decades bitter, invisible, forgotten in the corner of the temple. But Luke 2 tells us she never left. She worshipped night and day, fasting and praying. Picture her, wrinkled hands trembling as she lifts them in prayer, grey hair catching the flicker of candlelight in that dusty temple corridor. Decades of faithfulness with no spotlight, no recognition, no thank you cards. Just her and God, just devotion in the dark. And then one ordinary morning God shows up as a baby. When Mary and Joseph brought infant Jesus to the temple, it wasn't the priests who recognized him. It wasn't the scholars or the powerful. It was Anna, the hidden one, the forgotten one, the faithful one. And God gave her the honor of proclaiming the Messiah to everyone waiting for redemption. Your hidden years, they're not wasted. They're sacred construction. Think about Joseph. 13 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. 13 years of silence. 13 years of God. Where are you? But Genesis 41 shows us the truth. Those prison years weren't punishment. They were preparation. God was building a prime minister in the dark so that when famine came, Joseph could save nations. Your pain has been building something in you that the world is about to need. But I know what you're thinking. I hear the whisper in your soul. Does anyone even remember what I gave? Here's what I need you to understand. Heaven records what humans forget. Your life isn't just a story people tell. Your life is a letter heaven still reads aloud. Every act of kindness, every sacrifice, every moment you chose love, when hate was easier, it's written in the book of remembrance that Malachi 3:16 talks about. You didn't just survive. You became proof that God's grace is real. So if you've been the anchor in someone else's storm, if you've held steady when everything around you shook, comment, I'm still standing right now. Let your testimony speak. Let heaven and earth witness that you didn't quit. You didn't give up. You're still here. And here's what's about to happen next. The reward you stopped expecting is closer than you think. You've been like a river carving stone. Quiet, steady, never celebrated. But without you, there'd be no shape to their lives. No form, no foundation. Just chaos pretending to be normal. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? You've been the one holding your family together through funerals no one else had the strength to plan. Through divorces that shattered everyone except you because you couldn't afford to shatter. Through addiction that pulled your loved ones under while you stood on the shore, praying words you didn't even understand, begging God to hear what your heart couldn't articulate. You didn't fake peace. You built it. Brick by invisible brick, and no one clapped. No one sent flowers. No one even noticed the architecture of love you constructed in the ruins. Here's what breaks my heart. You've given so much of yourself that you forgot what it feels like to be full. You've poured out until the well ran dry, and still people come to you thirsty, expecting you to have more. And you do. Somehow, you always do. But let me ask you something that might sting. How long can a river run before it forgets it was once fed by a source? How long can you be strong for everyone else before your own bones start to ache under the weight of their survival? You're tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind that lives in your soul, the kind that whispers in the middle of the night, "Does anyone even see me?" They don't say it. But you're the reason they still believe love exists. You're the reason your daughter didn't give up on her marriage. You're the reason your son made it through that dark season when hopelessness sat at his table every morning. You're the reason your grandchildren know what faithfulness looks like, even if they can't name it yet. You didn't just survive your storms, you became the lighthouse for everyone else's. And that's exhausting. That's holy. That's costly. The Apostle Paul knew this weight. He wrote to the Galatians, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." Galatians 6-9, at the proper time, not when you expect it, not when you demand it, but when heaven says, now. And beloved, I'm here to tell you, your now is closer than you think. But first, you need to hear this. You're not crazy for feeling forgotten. You're not weak for being exhausted. You're not failing because you're running on fumes. You're human, and even the most anointed among us need to be refilled. If you're sitting there right now, knowing you've been running on empty but still showing up, type, I receive renewed strength in the comments. Let that be your declaration. Let heaven hear you say, I'm still here, I'm still willing, but I need you, God. Because here's the truth that's about to change everything. Without realizing it, you've become God's living sermon. Not the kind preached from pulpits with polished words and perfect theology. The kind that's written in scars and survived nights. The kind that doesn't need a microphone because your life itself is the message. People don't follow your words. They follow your presence. They don't remember what you said last Tuesday. They remember how you made them feel safe when the world was burning down. You are not just enduring. You are embodying what it means to love like Christ, loved sacrificially, relentlessly, without applause. But I need you to understand something that will wreck you and rebuild you at the same time. Your exhaustion is not a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's proof you're doing it right. Real love costs. Real intercession drains. Real ministry leaves you emptied out on altar floors, wondering if you have anything left to give. And then just when you think you're done, God whispers, one more day, one more step. I'm not finished with you yet. So the question burning in my spirit right now is this. What if the very thing that's been breaking you is actually the thing that's been making you into the person God always knew you'd become? You know what nobody tells you about carrying light for others? It costs you everything. Every single morning you wake up feeling like you've been wrestling angels all night. Your bones ache with a heaviness that 8 hours of sleep can't touch. Your soul feels like it's been wrung out like a dish rag, and you wonder if you've got anything left to give. And here's the question that haunts you in the 3 a.m. darkness. Why am I so tired when I haven't even done anything? Let me tell you something that's going to shift everything you thought you knew about your exhaustion. You're not weak. You're weary because you've been carrying sacred weight. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. That bone-deep tiredness you feel, that's not depression, that's not aging, that's not you falling apart. That's the evidence that you've been pouring yourself out like a drink offering while everyone else was keeping their cups full. You've been the one who stayed up praying when your children were lost. You've been the one who held your spouse together when their world was crumbling. You've been the one who showed up at funerals, hospitals, kitchen tables, carrying comfort you didn't even have for yourself. And nobody thanked you. Nobody saw it. Nobody counted the cost. But heaven did. The psalmist knew this exhaustion when he wrote, He restores my soul. Psalm 23:2. Not He restores my body, not He restores my bank account. He restores my soul because that's where you've been bleeding out. That's where the real cost has been paid. You think your oil ran out. You look at your life and you see an empty lamp, barely flickering. But let me tell you what God showed me about you. Your oil didn't run out. It just got quieter. You became the lamp that burns, even when no one's watching. You became the light in the window of a dark house, steady and constant, never asking for applause, never demanding recognition, just burning, just giving, just being. And in this windowless world where people are stumbling through their own darkness, your quiet light has been guiding them home without them even knowing it was you. You want to know why you feel invisible? Because you've been doing kingdom work in the invisible realm. You've been interceding in secret. You've been holding up arms when no one else could see the battle. You've been standing in the gap when everyone else walked away. But every tear you've cried watered someone else's miracle. Think about that for a moment. Every midnight tear that soaked your pillow while you prayed for your prodigal son, God caught it. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Those tears didn't evaporate into nothing. They became irrigation for someone else's breakthrough. Every prayer you whispered when your voice was too weak to shout, God heard it. And somewhere right now, someone is standing because you knelt. Someone is breathing because you interceded. Someone is still believing because you refused to give up. Every thank you you never heard echoed in heaven's corridors. They didn't say it to your face. They couldn't find the words. They didn't even realize it was you who held them together when everything was falling apart. But heaven knows. Heaven counted. Heaven recorded every single moment you gave yourself away. You are not invisible, dear one. You are irreplaceable. There are people breathing right now who wouldn't be here if you hadn't prayed. There are marriages still standing because you stood in the gap. There are children who didn't walk away from God because you wouldn't walk away from them. You didn't just survive your own storms, you became the lighthouse that guided others through theirs. And if the enemy could get you to believe that your weariness means you're worthless, he could silence the most dangerous weapon. Heaven has a soul refined by fire who refuses to quit. So right now, I need you to do something. If you've felt invisible lately, if you've wondered whether your sacrifice mattered, if you've questioned whether anyone even sees you anymore, I want you to type 4 words in the comments below. Gud still ses me. Not for me, not for this video, but as a declaration to the forces of darkness that tried to convince you that your quiet faithfulness didn't matter. Declare it publicly. Let hell hear it. Let heaven confirm it. Because, beloved, your sacred exhaustion isn't evidence that you're done. It's proof that you've been faithful. And what comes next is going to make every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every moment of invisible obedience worth more than you ever imagined. Because God doesn't restore empty vessels to leave them on the shelf. He restores them to refill them. And you're about to discover what happens when heaven decides it's time to pour into you the way you've been pouring out for others. Let me tell you something that's going to shift everything you thought you knew about your life. Do you know what's wild? Somewhere right now, someone is still standing because they saw yours, not your words, not your sermons, not your advice, your faith. The kind that keeps showing up, the kind that keeps breathing, the kind that refuses to quit even when quitting would make perfect sense. You thought nobody was watching. You thought your quiet endurance didn't matter. You thought all those years of holding on by a thread went unnoticed. But your grown daughter? She watched you worship God through the divorce. Your grandson? He saw you tithe when the bills were stacked 3 feet high on your kitchen table. Your neighbor? She noticed you still smiled at the mailman after burying your husband of 47 years. And something in them survived because of something in you. 2 Corinthians 3:2 says it plain as day. You yourselves are our letter, written not with ink but with the Spirit of the living God. You are the sermon. Not the one preached on Sunday mornings, the one lived on Tuesday afternoons when nobody's clapping. When the pain is private, when the faith costs everything and returns nothing visible, your life has been preaching louder than any pulpit ever could. You walk into a room and the atmosphere changes. That's not coincidence, that's consecration. Decades of choosing God when the world chose chaos has marked you. You smell like peace in a world that reeks of panic. You carry a fragrance people can't name but desperately need. Think about it. How many times has someone sat across from you at the diner, tears streaming, saying, "I don't know why I'm telling you this"? How many times has a stranger in the grocery store line started spilling their story like they've known you their whole life? How many times has your phone rung at 1 p.m. with someone who just needed to hear your voice? That's not random, that's resonance. Your spirit hums at a frequency heaven recognizes, and broken people are drawn to it like moths to flame. But here's the part that's going to wreck you in the most beautiful way. You thought you were just surviving, holding on, making it through, barely keeping your head above water. But all this time, all these years, all these moments when you felt weak and invisible and forgotten, you were sustaining others. Every time you chose forgiveness, you gave someone permission to try again. Every time you chose worship in the valley, you lit a path for someone still lost in the dark. Every time you chose faith over fear, you became a living billboard that screamed, "God is still real." You've become living proof that ordinary faith creates extraordinary miracles. Not the kind that make headlines, the kind that make history. The kind where a 72-year-old woman in the Bronx keeps 3 generations from falling apart just by existing. The kind where a retired schoolteacher in Queens becomes the reason her entire block still believes prayer works. You didn't set out to be anyone's hero. You just set out to survive with your integrity intact. But in doing that, in simply refusing to let bitterness win, refusing to let disappointment define you, refusing to curse God and die, you became the answer to someone's desperate prayer. God, show me someone who's been through hell and still loves you. Show me it's possible to hurt this bad and not lose faith. Show me what real strength looks like. And God pointed to you. So if you know someone whose light saved you, whose quiet faith kept you going when you wanted to quit, I want you to do something radical right now. Tag them, share this video, send them a message. Let them know they're not invisible. Let them know heaven recorded every sacrifice. Let them know they were never just surviving, they were sustaining. Start a chain of gratitude that echoes into eternity. Because the truth is, we're all standing on the shoulders of someone who refused to fall. We're all breathing because someone else chose to keep breathing when it hurt. We're all still here because somebody, somewhere, decided their faith mattered more than their feelings. And now it's your turn to recognize. You didn't just make it through. You became the reason someone else could too. Heaven weaves through time like thread through fabric. Your life is the hidden stitch holding generations together. Let that settle in your spirit for a moment, because what I'm about to reveal will shake everything you thought you knew about your purpose. You see, dear one, there's something the world has never told you, something the church whispers but rarely proclaims, something that separates the chosen from the merely called. You weren't just loved, you were trusted. Jeremiah 1-5 says it clearly. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. But listen closely to what God is really saying here. He didn't just know about you, He knew you. He knew the weight you could carry. He knew the fires you could survive. He knew the silent prayers you'd whisper when everyone else gave up. And here's what breaks me open every time I think about it. Others received blessing. You received responsibility. While your neighbors were getting comfort, you were getting capacity. While others were handed ease, you were handed endurance. While they got applause, you got assignment. And most of them will never understand the difference. You've carried prayers for people who didn't even know your name. You've stood in spiritual gaps so wide that hell itself tried to pull you through. You've interceded for prodigal children, broken marriages, dying parents, lost neighbors, people who will never write you a thank you card, never acknowledge the nights you wept on their behalf. But heaven counted every tear. Heaven recorded every whispered plea. Heaven marked you as trustworthy when most people were still begging for blessings. Think about this. Why would God trust you with that kind of weight? Why not someone younger, stronger, with more energy, more resources, more time left on this earth? Because trust isn't about age, beloved. Trust is about faithfulness in the hidden places. The 7-8-year-old grandmother in Queens, who's been praying for her grandson for 37 years, every single morning at 5 a.m., same corner of the kitchen, same bended knees, same unwavering faith. No platform, no audience, no recognition. Just radical obedience when no one's watching. That's divine trust. The retired construction worker in Brooklyn who chose to break generational trauma instead of passing it down, who absorbed the poison of abandonment so his grandchildren wouldn't have to taste it, who stands as a wall between the past and the future and says, "It stops with me." That's divine trust. The world doesn't know it, but heaven calls you its first responder. When crisis hits, when darkness falls, when hope runs out, you don't wait for permission. You don't check the temperature of the room. You show up. You pray. You stand. You become the lighthouse in storms not meant for you. And oh, the storms you've weathered, storms that should have taken you out, grief that should have destroyed your faith, betrayal that should have made you bitter, loss that should have closed your heart forever. But you're still here, still believing, still praying, still standing. That's not human resilience, dear one. That's evidence of divine selection. Luke 12:48 says it plainly, "To whom much is given, much will be required." But here's what most people miss. The much that was given to you wasn't money or fame. The much was capacity, the ability to carry weight without breaking, the strength to endure pressure without losing your integrity, the grace to forgive when forgiveness makes no earthly sense. You are not the victim of your circumstances. You are the vessel God trusted with impossible assignments. You've been doing what priests do your entire life, standing between heaven and earth, between the holy and the broken, between God's perfect will and humanity's desperate need. Interceding, sacrificing, believing when belief costs everything. And right now, as I speak these words, something in the spiritual realm is shifting over your life. What you carried in secret, heaven is about to reveal it in public. What you built in darkness, God is about to display it in light. What He refined in the furnace of obscurity, He's about to release with fire and authority that will shock everyone who underestimated you. You've been God's lighthouse standing in storms not meant for you. But the training season is over. The hiding is complete. What was once preparation is now about to become proclamation. If you feel the weight of this calling settling on your shoulders right now, if you recognize that something eternal has been placed in your hands, don't you dare shrink back. Type, "I am the light still burning," if you accept this calling. Because what I'm about to show you next will explain why your greatest assignment isn't behind you. It's just beginning. Let me remind you of what matters most. You are not invisible. Heaven sees every sacrifice you've made, every prayer you've whispered, every tear you've cried when no one else was watching. Your faithfulness in the hidden places has qualified you for what God is about to do in public. You are not forgotten. The delays weren't denials, they were divine protection. Your timing is perfect, even when it doesn't feel like it. You are not finished. Your greatest assignment isn't behind you, it's just beginning. What you carried in secret, God is about to reveal with power and authority that will shock everyone who underestimated you. And here's what I need you to understand. You are not alone. God hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. He is still working, still moving, still orchestrating divine appointments in your life. Romans 8:31 says it clearly, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" And right here, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey, who are ready to stand with you in prayer and faith. We're not just viewers, we're a family united by calling, connected by hope, bound together by the love of Christ. So let me ask you, knowing what you now know about your calling, how will you walk differently tomorrow morning? Drop a comment below and share what God spoke to your heart tonight. Tell us what you're believing Him for. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you with intercession. And please, share this message with someone who needs to hear that their finest hour is still ahead. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. You're connecting with a movement of chosen ones who refuse to give up, who refuse to believe their best days are behind them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Your faithfulness tells me everything you're ready for what's coming. Now let me pray over you. Heavenly Father, I lift up every soul who has heard this message. You know their names, their struggles, their battles fought in silence and dreams carried in secret. Place your mighty hand upon them right now. Let them feel your presence like a warm embrace, reminding them they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond understanding, called beyond their own ability. Open every door that man has closed. Heal every wound that time hasn't touched. Restore every dream that disappointment has stolen. Give them strength for the journey ahead, wisdom for decisions they must make, courage to speak when you call them to speak. I pray for their families, their health, their finances, their peace. Where there's division, bring unity. Where there's sickness, bring healing. Where there's lack, bring provision. Where there's anxiety, bring your perfect peace. Most of all, Father, remind them daily, they are chosen, they are loved, they are never alone. Let them wake each morning knowing you go before them, walk beside them, and have already prepared the way. In the mighty name of Jesus, who sits at your right hand interceding for us, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and love. Amen. Chosen one, your divine moment has arrived. Walk in the authority of your calling. Rest in the certainty of His love. Know that your best days aren't behind you, they're just beginning. Until we meet again, stand strong. You are chosen. You are loved. You are never alone. God bless you, warrior. Your finest hour is just ahead.